All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about negotiation today, but maybe not in the way you're used to. We're going to challenge this really common idea that negotiation is a skill you can learn from a book, like a recipe. What if that's the very thing that's holding you back?
Yeah, I know. It sounds a little crazy, right? We spend all this time and money on books and courses to learn the right way to do things. But what if there is no single right way? What if all those steps and checklists are actually a kind of trap?
You know, we love formulas. We love a good recipe. It feels safe, it feels predictable, and that's exactly how negotiation is often sold to us, as this perfect step-by-step formula that guarantees you'll win every time. It's a really comforting idea, but it's also a myth.
And you can totally see the appeal, right? A checklist gives you a sense of control in what can be a super stressful, unpredictable situation. It gives you a script so you don't have to worry about what to say next. It feels safe.
And we all know the drill. It looks just like this. You state your position, you make an offer, you wait for them to counter, and you kind of go back and forth until you land somewhere in the middle. I mean, it's logical, it's neat, and it's way too simple for the real world. So what happens when that neat little recipe meets the messy reality of an actual negotiation? Well, that's when things can get pretty ugly. This is where that rigid, by-the-book approach becomes a huge risk. And this, right here, this is the whole game. The person following the recipe, they're just running through a checklist in their head. But a real negotiation, oh, that's a live performance. It's about picking up on tiny signals, adapting your entire strategy on a dime, and just leaning into the fact that you have no idea what's coming next. And here's the bottom line. When you're so focused on following your script, you stop listening. You're so worried about step 3 that you completely miss what the other person is telling you, verbally or not, in that very moment. You're just not present. Okay, so if negotiation isn't a recipe you follow, what is it? Well, we need a whole new way of looking at it. Let's explore this idea of negotiation as a living, breathing art form. And it's really built on 3 core pillars.
First up, there's movement. I want you to think of a negotiation less like a straight line and more like a dance or a river. It has a flow, a current. A great negotiator doesn't try to force it in one direction. They feel the current and move with it, guiding the conversation naturally. The second pillar is adaptation. This is all about your ability to improvise. So the other person throws you a total curveball. The recipe follower, they freeze up. It's not in the script. But the artist, they see it as an opening, an opportunity to adapt and find a new, maybe even better way forward. And finally, we have intuition. This one's a little more subtle. It's that gut feeling. It's knowing when to push, and maybe more importantly, when to just be quiet and listen. It's about reading the energy in the room, paying attention to what's not being said. So you put those 3 things together, movement, adaptation, and intuition, and that's what we're talking about, negotiation as an art. It's about being so present in the moment that you can spot those little openings and have the flexibility to pivot and seize them instantly. So now for the real test. What happens when the person sitting across from you didn't read the same rulebook? What if they're not following any rules at all? This is where the artist eats the cook's lunch. This is the moment of truth, because the recipe follower's entire strategy depends on the other person playing by the same rules. When they come up against someone who's unpredictable, who's playing outside the box, their script is suddenly worthless. They're just lost. And that's the hard truth we just have to accept. You can read all the case studies in the world, but a real conversation with a real unpredictable person is never, ever going to follow that clean, perfect textbook example. The real work, the real progress, it all happens right there in the messy, live, dynamic back and forth between 2 people. The magic isn't in the preparation, it's in the performance. So as we wrap this up, it really all boils down to one simple question you have to ask yourself about your approach. Are you trying to be a cook, or are you trying to be an artist? If you take just one thing away today, please let it be this. Negotiation isn't a dead set of instructions on a page. It's a living, breathing thing. You have to treat it that way. Think about it. A cook follows instructions to get a predictable result. An artist uses their tools and their intuition to create something new, something that's never existed before, right there in the moment. So the next time you walk into a negotiation, which one are you going to be?